I'm going to be doing my presentation on Raising Grasses, Not Bison, presented by me, Skylar Pogue. Quick introduction about me. I served a little over 7 years in active duty Navy, and I separated in January of 2023. The past year and a half, I've worked at my family's ranch in Sulphur Springs, Texas, as the communication and tech support. Since starting this internship, I have learned more about conservation and now have a desire to go back to college and achieve a degree in range conservation, hopefully from Texas Tech. The topics I will be presenting over today will cover a little bit about history of bison in North America, what rangeland ecology is and why it's important, and then we'll discuss the differences in a few management styles and how those affect the overall health of bison. For thousands of years, Native Americans relied heavily on bison for their survival and well-being, using every part of the bison for their daily life. Plains tribes are known for buffalo jumps, which was their special way of hunting and pushing bison over cliff sides and harvesting them below. However, sorry, I'm a little nervous, y'all. However, in 1868, General Sherman developed a plan to wipe out bison completely, hoping to kill the spirit of the Native American. By 1889, bison were close to going extinct with roughly only 100 head still alive. Thankfully, with the help of Charles and Mary Ann Goodnight, they were able to save a small calf herd, eventually growing this herd to over 200 animals. Today, bison from this same herd can be found at Texas Caprock Canyon State Park. This image is from South Dakota State Historical Society, and it simply lists out the different ways the bison was used for our ancestors and for us today. You can still make goods out of the hide and sell those. The fat can be turned into body care and also for cooking needs. Of course, the bison still provides meat and bone that can be used to nourish our bodies, and bones can still be made into tools and other artifacts that we use daily. What is the purpose of range ecology? Range ecology purpose is to ensure animal stocking rates are managed to maintain vegetation, composition, and productivity, while water source and mineral supplement locations are used to improve animal distribution and avoid overgrazing and compaction of soil. Simply put, it's to ensure soil, water, vegetation, and animals work together to create a thriving ecosystem to better our planet. So let's first talk about the groundwork of it all, soil. If we don't know what type of soil we have or the nutrients in the soil, how will farmers and ranchers know if it needs to have compost, mineral, fertilizer, or water added? It's simple, you won't. Using tools like Web Soil Survey or even their downloadable app, Soil Web, you can see what type of soil you have. However, you won't know what current nutrient levels you have until you start pulling samples and sending them off to various colleges. In Texas, we have soils can be sent to colleges like SF Austin or Texas A&M. According to Web Soil Survey, GP Ranch soil varies between Crockett loam, Leishman clay, Nahachie soil, and Wilson clay loam, which honestly breaks down to a lot of clay loam soil. This is an example of a soil result that was sent and received from SF Austin State University in May of 2023. These results allow for the farmer to understand the baseline of their soil and can make a more informed decision on where to take their pasture to next. As you can see, this one lists out the levels for nitrate, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and magnesium. What's also great about this is that they give you different levels for it and allow you to see the different with your very high, very low, and recommendations you can add to your pastures. Moving on to water, we learned back in elementary just how important this element is to our livelihoods, and know that 71% of the earth is filled with water. And if we as humans need it, why wouldn't it be the same for bison? According to the Conservancy in Minnesota, bison consume roughly 30 gallons of water each day. While not all ranchers have free-flowing water, they have to rely on water troughs and ponds. It is vital, though, that you check these water sources frequently for possible growth of blue-green algae. It is deadly toxic to animals who drink from the source. Down in the South, Mother Nature likes to do something called baking us on high heat from May to October. So when we get rain, it's a really good thing. However, there can be highs and lows to it. Too much rain, this causes for an influx of internal parasites, and too little rain, it causes for low to no vegetation for later throughout the year, which you'll have to start supplemental feeding. Speaking of feeding, moving towards the vegetation and forbs, forages, and grasses. Say you're home sitting on the couch and you get a hankering for something. So you go to the kitchen and realize you have no groceries. You have no food anywhere in your house. So you leave and you go grocery shopping. The same can be said for bison. If there's no food, these wild animals are surely going to find some, regardless if there's a fence in the way or not. According to the Texas Park and Wildlife Department, bison need roughly 24 pounds of feed a day, or 1.6% of their body weight. Using tools like the Natural Resource Conservation Services, NRCS, they offer different programs like cover crops, pasture planting, and prescribed grazing to assist and ensure animals have adequate food sources from a conservation standpoint. These photos show some of the vegetation located at GP Ranch. There's some Johnson grass, switch grasses, little bluestem, milkweed, and the ever-annoying cockleberry pods that get stuck and planted randomly whenever bison decide to eat it and fertilize it in a different part of the pasture. Now that you have the main portion of rangeland ecology, you include the animals. What is an animal unit month? You may wonder. AMU is short for animal, or the amount of forage required by one animal unit, AU, for 1 month. Most counties and tribal land have a set number of animals you can have on your property. So it's best to check with your county extension officer or tribe before you start adding all these animals onto your property. If you want to have more than bison grazing your property, you're more than welcome to, but there's a few things you should know. Bison can graze with animals such as cattle, swine, and poultry, but you have to understand if you have sick animals, it's going to spread. But if you have healthy animals, most of the time they're going to stay pretty healthy. There will be diseases like bovine respiratory syncytial virus, I believe that's how you pronounce it, BVRS, and Mycoplasma bovis, which can be spread with contact through contaminated surfaces such as shared water troughs. In the wild, we have seen bison graze with other large animals like elk, deer, bears, and have flies be picked off of them by different grassland birds. However, sheep and goats should not be raised with bison in a ranch manner due to them being a carrier for malignant catarrhal fever. Most people know it as MCF, but it can kill a bison within 48 hours, and best to stay away from them. While not all sheep and goats are known to exhibit the fever, it's just best to not even chance it. At GP Ranch, we like to let nature take its course and try not to intervene as much as possible, while still ensuring the safety of animals. We do have bison and cattle that graze together, so we try to ensure that they have the minerals they needed that they don't get from standing forage. We use garlic-infused mineral feeders to help as a natural remedy to help with the fly control and other parasites that may exist. We currently don't have all the land we would love to have for bison to roam. However, we have implemented prescribed grazing plans and also installed multiple water troughs throughout the different pastures so that they always have the nutrients they need. The middle photo is of two calves from last year. And with all of the conservation practices we've implemented here, we were able to have these two calves. I don't know if you can see the mouse, but they were 10 to 11 months and weighed roughly 630, 640 pounds. And in the South, these are great numbers because these are bison that were raised strictly on native grasses, on grasses in general. We don't do supplemental feeding if possible. Where there is good, there's also bad in the bison industry. This herd was about 2 hours south of GP Ranch, and we were called out to work the herd, get information needed for them so they could be sold since their previous owner had recently passed. And I know these photos may be hard to look at, and trust me when I say it was even harder being there and experiencing this in person. I have a big heart for animals and the overall care for them. And it's hard when you don't know or you can't help what you don't know. And the person who was taking care of them did not know. These images showed the physical state of the bison who were placed in here for roughly 10 hours with no food and no water. Go next. This is the same herd and property. Pallets of salt blocks were dropped off across the pasture, causing the soil to become oversaturated and therefore causing it to kill all the grasses, leaving pretty much no vegetation on the ground. You can see the different piles of manure that are taller than the grass. When it gets to this point, you need to not get to this point. Let's just say that. However, their main water source was actually right behind the fence that they're all pushing up against. They also were able to do a couple necropsies, which is an autopsy on a past animal, and found out that poor nutrition and management were the main cause of death. No matter the animal species, a feedlot's main purpose is to get the animal up to a certain body weight as quick as possible to make the most money. Because of this, certain auctions create unrealistic expectations of bison weights and ages for ranchers who do not have the feedlot management styles. If you've ever driven by a bison or cattle feedlot, you know the odor that makes its way into your car is horrendous. And it's things like this that cause issues to our environment, causing air and water pollution, as well as an over-excess of dust. What was once a healthy option to beef and considered uncommon to have is now being raised as cattle and distributed out as a high commodity. I would like to end this presentation by expressing that while yes, bison are still wild animals, the earth they roamed years ago is not the same earth that they're walking today. And it is imperative for us as farmers and ranchers to take care of the land that we have by using the various conservation practices that are out there. As more organizations like Tanka Fund, Makoche, the Intertribal Buffalo Council, and the Texas Tribal Bison Project work alongside tribes to bring back bison to Native people and Native lands, together, bison and natives are able to continue thriving and doing what our ancestors did years ago. It would be amazing to know that in 200 years from now, our future generations are having the same relationship with bison that our ancestors had, and the same relationship that we are striving for today. This is a couple references I used, not all of them.